And hey, everybody. Welcome to episode 23 of the Starbright podcast. Hope everyone has had a good month since the last time we've seen y'all. Vacation was most excellent in every single possible way, as vacation should be, but we are back. Um, and I think today's episode is care and kink, basically. Before a scene, during a scene, after a scene, all that kind of thing. How to take care of your partner, basically. Different things you can do, and all of that. Um, which I think we've kind of covered a little bit before, right? Like I think we discuss
We've
aftercare
talked
specifically?
we've talked about aftercare before. I can't remember if we've done like an explicit episode, but I feel like we've at least touched on it.
We've talked about aftercare and kind of dipped a little bit into the other things, but nothing too extensive.
Well, I mean, I'd say it's part of the basic. I don't know if I'd contract would be the phrase I'd use here exactly, but it's kind of like the basic expectation, right? That you and your partner are gonna take care of each other, and try and mitigate anything awful from happening. That's really the goal here, right? We don't want something bad happening, right?
hmm
I think if we want to walk through it, I mean, what would be the first step in pre-scene? Like what's your first step in making sure that you're taking care of your partner? Like what would be your first concerns if you wanted to make sure that they're all right or going to be all right?
Their mood.
Yeah, their mood, their concerns about the scene, how safe they feel about it.
hmm
When you're going through like the consenting portion at the beginning, when you're talking about what they're doing, if there's anything they have concerns about, or they might have anxiety about, or even insecurities about, it would be a good time to really, really help them work through this. Help them, feel good about themselves, feel comfortable with it, make sure they're really well aware and comfortable with everything going on, and anything you can do that will help them prepare themselves and be enthusiastic and ready for this without it actually dipping into like manipulation.
Right, and then also I'd say finding out where their boundaries might lie in terms of like something that might trigger them. Because sometimes a lot of people like to play really close to those boundaries when it comes to the scenes that they're in. Like I think I mentioned this before. I had a partner a long time ago that liked to be slapped on the face, but they were also a victim of domestic abuse, and so
hmm
sometimes we would have to stop. We'd have to red right in the middle of it because they had to stop. They had to just cease completely, and recognize that they're not in the situation that the trigger sent them into, basically that everything was okay. So I'd say that's a big one to know beforehand. I'd say as well, right? You got to know a that there's triggers there, and b that you might have to stop if one of them hits.
Yeah. Prim, what do you think? You were the one who was wanting to talk about pre-care, and you were talking about it specifically. Like, what do you consider pre-care?
Um, it is sort of like in a way just like checking with triggers and stuff like that, but like it's more like a checklist across the board. You want to make sure that they've eaten, they're hydrated, they've taken meds if they have meds. You want to show them like it's like if they're not sure about something in a scene, like about how hard the impact is going to be. You can be like, well, before we get going, like this is as hard as I'm going to go. Is this acceptable, for instance? Show them all the toys or tools you might use in case there's anything they want to veto. They're like, well, that's too, that's got too many spikes on it or whatever, Um, check like how restraints fit. Um, uh, if they're worried about like, restraints, not if it's one they haven't worked with before, like they might be worried, especially like people with SA and DV trauma, like you want to know that you can undo it in a matter of time that is like specific to them. Like, obviously Velcro are really quick or whatever, but they might want something with a buckle, but if you can't get it undone in an amount of time before it's going to cause them to hyperventilate, then, it's just like a checklist of checking through everything in the scene, but also everything with the person. Like you want to make sure that they are well aware. I mean, and also you want to reassure them and then tell them that, yes, you have also eaten. Yes, you're also, you're not tired, you're sober, because it's about reaching a place of care beforehand, that you're both in the same mindset going in, that you're both being looked after, you're both being attended to, because it'll make things go smoother. And then, when the aftercare comes in, if they felt cared for, regardless of like what the content of the scene is, then the aftercare hits in a different way as well. Like it's more effective. It's more.
You're building up a space of trust between each other.
Exactly
Yes.
that. Yeah.
And I think that could be argued that that goes well beyond even immediately before the scene.
Yeah, making sure your
Yeah.
your toys are all right is a major one too.
Oh, what?
Like you mentioned,
Toy preventative maintenance, yeah.
it's one thing to tell someone, hey, I got this massive butt plug we're going to use during a scene, and then for them to arrive and realize, oh shit, it's the girth of a Gatorade bottle. Very very different circumstances can arise.
Yeah. Make sure everyone's okay with everything that's going to be used. Or you're talking about this paddle that you have that you really like, and you show up and it's basically a cheese grater.
Ooh.
Oh. Okay,
I mean,
well, maybe we need to like rediscuss the use of this paddle because this is not what I was expecting.
It could also be making sure you have enough lube for a scene.
Oh my god, yeah.
You're not out of anything.
Yeah.
Whether
'Cause
that
there
be
may be
condoms or
days-
cleaning supplies, whatever.
There
you
may
need.
be days where things are running a little bit drier than usual for whatever reason. Maybe you're dehydrated. Maybe you've been sick. Like, you might need to have a little bit more lube than you expected.
If you're using the back door.
Yes. Especially if you're using the back door.
Well, even in a way, like for a comfort level, even like if they have a particular brand of lube that they buy,
Mhm.
like it doesn't cost you extra to buy a lube that they can then see that you've cared enough to get something they know already.
Yes.
Like that adds trust. It's something very simple that just adds that extra layer of trust, that you care how the scene is going to go, that you consider them a person and not just some holes up until the scene starts.
Yeah, and it may not have even dawned on them to mention that they may not be able to handle like the texture of, I doubt leather. Like if you're in kink and you don't like leather, I think you would have said something at some point because like leather is ubiquitous. But if you really can't handle like the plastic fake stuff, that's something that, oh, well, I see that you're going to be using these restraints that are not something I can tolerate. That should be something that you may not think of until you're actually in the scene, because like that may not be the first thing on your mind when you're planning the scene. But when you see those things, that's a good thing to discuss before the scene starts and talk about how to make that doable. Maybe, making sure there's a buffer between your skin and that surface at the very least until you can get better quality cuffs or different cuffs.
And like rope has different like coarseness as well. And some people maybe won't mind so much, but other people, like, people with sensitive skin, even like, a certain degree of roughness might be too much. It might take the pain past a point where it's not enjoyable any longer.
Yep. Or they might be allergic to that type of rope, depending on what the rope's made of.
Well, I mean, yeah, latex allergies and stuff are a whole thing as well that need to be taken into consideration.
Yes.
Yeah, so I was gonna say health stuff in general, because Prim mentioned like meds, but like I'm gonna be looking for very different things. If you tell me like, hey, I have POTS and I could pass out right in the middle of it, then I'm gonna be paying a lot more attention to whether or not you're aware and not just pass out unconscious because you went to a fainting spree. So health issues in general is a big thing, especially we did that episode on the accessibility in King too, because it's an open space, and there's plenty of people that have different health issues that can impact what they can do in the bedroom, and maybe they have pre-existing conditions, like maybe don't put a strobe light out if the person has epilepsy. Could be something as simple as that, but health issues is definitely a big one too.
Yeah, that's a big consideration. I think a lot of this is not even just like pre-care stuff. A lot of it, once you are talking about getting into a scene, once you're actually at the scene, it's a very different vibe. When the day is there, you're arriving there, or you're setting up. Like as you're setting up, sometimes just seeing the things is very different than discussing it, and there is often anxiety that has to be brought up and talked about as you're preparing. Like, oh, now that you're seeing this, is this something you no longer want to do? sometimes that will require communication and changing the plan for the scene. If that person is no longer really feeling that giant toy that you were really excited about, but now that they're seeing it, they're like, oh, well, I think that we needed an alternative, like just in case if this doesn't work out, like what are we going to do differently? And start rediscussing what the alternatives are before the scene starts to make sure everyone is confident and feeling safe and secure and like they're excited still. If you're not excited at the point where you're about to go into this scene and you're not feeling confident that this is going to be a fun experience, then it's probably going to not be as much of a fun scene no matter what you do. And I think that there's a good amount of pre-care goes into like making sure everyone's good with what's going on and there are alternatives available. Because like, maybe you could end the scene, but like what if, you already had a change of plans in mind? If you've already discussed like, oh, if this doesn't work, well, we've got something else lined up.
Mm-hmm.
So it'd be better to have that pre-discussed rather than having to stop the scene and you actually can't in the middle of the scene discuss changing things anyway because the power dynamic's already been established in such a way that it's not fair or safe to ask.
Yep.
So might as well, if you feel like you might need to have a change of things going on, it would be a good time while you are no longer or not quite into the power dynamic change. This would be a good time to talk about like, oh, well, I'm not sure I feel safe with this anymore. Like, can we do a plan B? Like, if this doesn't work, what else can we do? It
Oh
at
yeah,
least
completely.
gives
And
better options.
maybe even come up with like a series of plans based on maybe I'm not going to feel like this, maybe I'm going to feel like this that day, beforehand, just so you have like something prepared for no matter how the other person feels, even if it's just like super like light impact for like a really short period of time or something, if they really don't feel like anything, just like a series of things depending on how they might feel like what they'd be into at different levels, because you can't guarantee, as you guys mentioned, someone's going to show up and be like, yeah, I want to be brutally fucked today. There's everyone's just gonna have their own feeling that day, and it's the same thing. Because I feel like we're talking in very much from like the bottom's perspective of like what's okay with the bottom, but I might not show up that day and want to brutally fuck someone, as a dom. Maybe I'm not into that for that day. You know what I mean? So this goes like both ways. Everyone has to, think about,
Yes.
hey, I might want this, I might want that, I might not want to do that day, that kind of thing, and hopefully have plans for that.
Yeah, and make sure everyone's actually enthusiastic for what's about to happen. Because if both parties or all parties involved are not equally enthusiastic, then what would be the point of the scene if not everyone's going to be equally enthusiastic about what you're doing? That is a
Exactly.
pretty serious issue. So everyone should go in, and if we're not all equally enthusiastic going in, then how are we going to be equally enthusiastic coming out? There's more likely going to be one very unhappy person and one person who just is also a little bit unhappy, but maybe to a lesser degree. But nobody's going to come out of that a winner.
Exactly. Which is why, the phrase enthusiastic consent is so important, because that's not just like a week in advance enthusiastic consent. That is like at the moment of enthusiastic consent.
Exactly.
Anything to add about pre-care, Prim?
Um,
Cat?
I was
Stretch.
just thinking,
Stretch.
that helps too.
Yes. Group stretching before the orgy. Sounds exactly right.
Limbs and otherwise.
Yeah. Yes. Everyone needs a good stretch. And sometimes, maybe certain toys that like stretch should be pre-prepared too. If you've got, I don't know, some people use restraints that are stretchy, and if they haven't been stretched in a while, they could snap. So make sure everything's like ready to go
Ooh,
and
no, don't make
prepared.
out of that.
Like imagine that though. Imagine like going into a scene with like a stretchy rubber bondage tool. Like I'm thinking like I've
They
seen
have
things
like
like this.
under
I'm
the
not sure
bed
they're
ones.
made of.
I think they're
Yeah,
stretchy.
I've seen things
Hmm.
that remind me of like those exercise bands, but they're like behind the
Yes.
back. Imagine if that were to snap mid scene and it would not be the type of impact you were prepared for. I don't think. It'd be a little rude. And I'd be a little upset. Like, okay, it's one thing for impact. It's one thing to have this thing snap and like crack my back when I wasn't expecting it. I would not be down for that. So like, make sure that your things are all ready to go, including the things that need to be stretched on a regular basis to maintain their integrity.
I love watching the workout videos of people using those bands, them snapping on people, especially like when they're using them on their feet and just snaps back into their crotch.
Yeah,
It's so funny every
I've
time.
been to gyms and gym classes before where somebody's band that they picked up from the shelf
Oh
snapped.
no!
They nearly lost it. Like they were trying to balance, like they were 1 foot on the band, like and balancing. I think they were doing some sort of like squat while working their arms, and it snapped. And the loss of tension, they nearly fell forward on their face. I only saw it happen once, but I will never forget that because now I have the fear of God in me about those bands.
Same.
Yeah, imagine that. I have seen bondage tools that look like that, and it just imagine if that popped while you were having some playtime, and both parties could get impact you weren't expecting from that.
Oh yeah.
The only other thing I can think of would be self-hygiene as well.
Oh my God, yeah.
Cleaning under nails, making sure nails are trimmed when
Yes.
needed, things like that. Not just, PTA, but if you're not intending to scratch in the scene, maybe don't scratch a person's private regions either.
Yeah. Also, make sure you clean under your nails because human nails are fucking gross, guys, and scratching is all fun and good. If you're scratching somebody when you've got dirty nails, the risk of infection is a lot higher. Also, like if you're gonna be doing a lot of biting, maybe brush your teeth first because the human mouth is even worse.
Yeah, I was going to say mouthwash is probably a good idea.
Also, like you're gonna be a lot of face-to-face time. Please don't smell bad unless you're into that. But like, if you're not into smelly breath or smelly people, like you should both be pretty clean before you go into that scene. A pre-shower would actually be fun before a scene. Then you can both make sure all necessary areas would be clean.
I mean, I'd hope so. I mean,
Invest
you
in a
really
nail
you should be
brush,
doing
guys.
that. You should be doing that in your general life too. I would hope, but
Look,
yes.
you've met
people?
Yeah, you've met people. Come on.
Yeah.
I know
I've
so many
been to
women who make
conventions.
showers a part of like their first like dalliance with a man because they can guarantee they're going to be gross when they get there, so they can make it seem like a sexy shower just so they know any part of them that's going to touch them that's going to be gross and sweaty and dirty is going to be less so because they've seen it themselves.
So a lot of guys don't have nail brushes. If you like scratching your partner and you don't own a nail brush, get a nail brush. Get a nail brush. It's really hard to clean under your nails if you don't have the tool to do it. Get a nail brush. They're like $1. Get a nail brush. Please. I'm asking. Don't scratch me if your nails are dirty. Thank you. This has been a PSA from Mouse, who really hates being scratched with dirty nails.
I mean, I don't have a nail brush, but I mean, I keep my nails pretty trimmed most of the time. When they're not,
Cat, hook him
right
up
now they're
because you can
clean.
get him for like 3 for $1 on Amazon.
I have some.
Yeah.
I'm not a scratcher generally.
Yeah, I have a bunch of them. I have a little baggie of nail brushes, and I give them to people often because people have dirty nails. They're like, I don't understand why I can't get them clean. They're like using a knife under their nails. I'm like, you need a nail brush. Here, have one. It costs me 30 cents. For the love of God, clean your nails. A knife doesn't always do it.
It's fine. I don't know what you're talking about.
I have to wash my hands too often at work to really get too much dirt under my nails generally.
You'd be surprised. You can get a lot under your nails that you just can't get out with soap and water on their own.
I think that kind of covers all that I have.
Yeah, I can't think of a whole lot else. Except during the scene stuff we can discuss.
Mm-hmm.
I mainly just pack my own bag. They know what I need for aftercare, and
that's actually a really
that
good
way
point.
if-
Pre-care. Oh, sorry.
No, you're all good.
Pre-care includes making sure you have the things that you need for the scene.
Mhm.
If your partner wouldn't have those things, bring them with you. If you have meds that you might need, if you have self-care items you might need, and your partner would not have them, bring them with you.
When we're
Bring
at
your
It
the
asthma
seems like
club,
bottle.
I like
it's
having like this little robe with me that's not something they necessarily would have,
yeah,
and making sure that's all communicated. Hey, I have this. I want this after. There we go. But
yeah. uh,
you can't
It,
get
it's
that for aftercare unless they know about that before.
yeah. I also think it's a really good idea. Like if you have a potential that you might, I don't know, with me having immunodeficiency, I have a higher need for like. Sometimes my aftercare includes like if you've scratched my back, I'm gonna need you to put some ointment on there so it's got less of a chance of getting infected. I would bring that with me because
Hmm.
there's a good chance that whoever I'm with would not have that, or they may not have like the good brand or something. Why would I not bring that with me? And it seems kind of obvious to some people, but to others, it may not be. Like they might think that their partner would absolutely have that item, but not everybody has those kinds of things.
It can
So
be
there's,
easier to assume with longtime partners, but when you're meeting for the first time, you
well, not
can't
even the
make
first
assumptions
time.
like that. Oh, true.
If you are used to this person always having this thing, it doesn't mean it's something they always have either. Like maybe
Mm.
they are out of
Hmm.
Neosporin, maybe they're out of your favorite brand of something or another that you use for aftercare. After packing a bag, making sure you are prepared, or if you are the place where the person is coming, make sure everything's in a place where everyone can find it. If you have a medical emergency because you have a medical condition, those things should be easily accessible for your partner too, so they can help. Just make sure that you actually have everything with you and it's communicated with your partner where it is in case this happens.
Yeah, man, people just forget shit too. So having backups of anything is just a good,
Hmm.
you know.
Make your
You
home
could, you
Absolutely.
could you
Harry
could tell them
Potter style.
beforehand, hey, we want to do this or whatever, and they're like, yeah, that's cool, and doesn't mean that they remembered to get everything that you needed to have there. So if you bring your
Hmm.
own, at least there's something there,
Oh,
So,
yeah. You mentioned bag, and suddenly I was like, oh shit, we didn't even mention that. How did we not even mention that?
no, that was yeah.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. We all forget. So it's always, always, always better to bring anything you think you might need.
The first time
Um,
going to the club on our own, we brought a bag of stuff we thought we might need, and kind of seeing what everybody else brought along. It's just like, oh no, we're definitely missing this, and this. That would be handy. Let's go add those in before we actually do any scenes here yet. And even the club itself has cleaning supplies and things like that, but towels and stuff, any comfort items, you're going to want to bring that stuff yourself. And
oh,
it's
yeah.
really easy to learn from other people. Oh yeah, that's actually really smart. We'll bring baby wipes next time too. Things like
Oh,
that.
yeah. Yeah. I think it's a great idea. Self-care items, self-hygiene items that you might need afterwards. Like your partner may not be used to cleaning up the way that you like to clean up. So when you say, hey, I want to be cleaned up after, they may not understand exactly what you mean. So if you at least brought what you usually use with you, that it minimizes the chance of it being bad.
Hmm.
And then we get into care during, which I mean really is just a transition of a lot of the same things, in terms of like mood, body language wise, and health wise, and whatnot. And that you've hopefully already discussed, in pre-care, right? But I'd say a much larger portion of during care is about paying attention to like mood and body language. Make sure the other person is still okay. Make sure they're able to give a safe word or say red or something if they need to stop, and make sure everything is okay moment to moment, and that you're not going too far, or maybe you need to do more depending on what their body language is saying, or maybe they're laughing at you, so you need to do more depending on what kind of bottom they are. uh, and it's to me, during is all about just paying attention to the other person, right? And then obviously
Oh,
carrying
yeah.
forth all those health, uh, uh, potential watch list things you got to pay attention to too. But it's all about the body language during for me.
I think body language is an important thing. Cues, paying attention to what's going on with both of you as well as in the outside world. Like you
Mm.
don't want to get too into the scene and not realize that there's a fire alarm going outside because the music's too loud.
That would be awkward.
Yeah. Firefighters popping in during the scene would probably lead to somebody getting arrested in certain scenes.
You're not wrong.
Yeah, I can think of some really awkward times for somebody to pop in.
I mean, they're already wearing splash-proof outfits. You never know; they might be into it.
Look, I'm sure that's the start of many porn. Many a porn. Many. I feel like I've actually seen that porn. I haven't even seen a lot of porn.
Yeah, I'm not
It's
checking
gotta
your
be out
search
there.
history.
I feel like there's absolutely something like that.
Splash-resistant outfits. God damn it.
Did you just realize he said splash proof outfits?
No, just thinking about it because he's not wrong.
I mean, look,
I
they
mean,
have suspenders on. Like, what do you want?
they already brought the giant hose. I mean, does it get any better? And you've already got the splash proof blanket down, so
Yeah, I mean, like they got oxygen for self-care. You know.
are we saying that the
fire
best
people
kit to
equipped
bring
for,
to any scene, just the whole fireman kit?
Yeah. Firemen are just BDSM rescue people. That's all there is to it.
That does sound like what a BDSM rescue person would be called.
You're not wrong.
I'm thinking about it now, and I actually am not sure if I like it or dislike it.
I've been
I
stuck
feel like
on it.
mentally we're all stuck on it. We're quiet, but not because we're all like horrified, because we're all just like, I mean, yeah. I mean, it could happen.
Imagine if I derailed a podcast about care with kinky firemen. It would never happen.
Look, I'm not saying we all have ADHD, but
I mean, there's already the whole meme about
World.
firemen being male strippers is like their side job. Like that's already like a thing.
having seen a lot of male firemen in my time, I can assure you that I would pay them to not.
Well, yeah, very, very much depends on the fireman.
Look, I'm also Demi, and I'm just like, please, can we just not and say we did? Thank you. I'm going to go now.
Well, you don't want you don't want to see the old fat one stripped down. What's wrong with that?
Look, all I can think about is my friend's dad, who is like the stereotypical fireman with the bushy mustache, and I'm just like, no, nope.
So, speaking of firemen, fire. Another care for during, making sure temperature and everything. If y'all need a fan during the scene, things like that. I got you.
Or need the fan to be off.
I feel like my ass is already cold just thinking about that.
I run so freaking hot, so I always want a fan most of the time.
I am the opposite. I'm so fucking cold all the time.
And that's just what we would need separately in the scenes. You need probably a heater in the room. Ooh.
I mean, I feel like if we're not generating enough heat, then something has gone wrong. Something has gone wrong, but like, you know, maybe like part of the denial scene is just like making me really cold.
But if it's just like a rope scene,
yeah, I'd probably be freezing my ass off quite literally.
Yeah. And if it's only impact and nothing is getting hot and heavy so much.
Besides the impact marks.
Exactly. Which might be a good thing.
At least that will keep those surfaces warm. Everything else will be cold.
Back to firemen. I was also thinking about, like, you know, for like ambiance and stuff, people use candles as well. That's something you have to, like, being aware of the environment.
Yes.
And I was thinking about like scents and incense and stuff, because I know you've got allergies and shit, Mouse. Like, so you need to check before, and if you're gonna, you know, play with like scent oils or whatever.
I might forget to tell you that I'm allergic to pine, but like if you start burning some pine-based incense, it's not Christmassy. I'm just having anaphylaxis. Thank you. I am solely the reason that incense and wax melts are burned at the university that I went to. So that's how I found out that I get anaphylaxis from pine oil based scents.
That's rough.
It would not be the time that I want to learn is during the scene that somebody had this really fancy Christmas candle. I would probably not be having a good time. The throat is not getting tighter for your enjoyment, sir.
You know, they might have like pine-based aftershave or something. Like,
right. Like this isn't something I think
there might be a lumberjack. I don't know.
To mention to fit people usually, but I'm super allergic to pine, and it usually doesn't come up unless it's Christmas and you have a pine tree in your house, and I will just not visit you. Yeah.
That's super rough. Well, on a side note, though, if anyone wants mouse repellent, just get some pine scented stuff.
I may not notice until I have hives, and then I'll be like, hey, do you happen to have a Christmas tree? Because fuck you.
Not the fuck you right after.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I have a Christmas tree. When did you get it this week? I'm like, oh, yeah, go fuck yourself. Get away from me. No. What do you mean? It's 2024. Why do you not have a fake tree? Come on. I'm kidding, but if you have a real tree, it's fine. But also, you're dying. Yeah, people like me are actively dying from the pollen you're carrying with you. I'm not a fan, but you do you. But like, I'm also like super allergic to pine.
I've never had a problem with fake trees. I think fake trees are fine.
Damn right, what are you thinking?
I think fake trees are much nicer than they used to be. I don't understand why somebody would want to buy a tree every single year.
Yeah,
personally.
A chatter says time to get everything pine. So someone has it out for you, Mouse.
I guess so, damn.
Kitchen's gonna be done in pine wood.
Oh my god, a bed made out of pine wood, and me finding out once I've been tied to the bedpost, like, oh, okay. No. Have we discussed the make of your furniture? Because I feel like, no, it's not that I want to buy them. I'm just wondering why it's trying to kill me.
Like stocks. Or like any dungeon furniture, that would be a bad way to work it out. Like stocks around your throat, being
on a St. Andrew's cross.
That's going to end.
I'm not Jesus. Don't hang me on the wrong cross. Thank you. Well, I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't have gone full heretical joking, but like that's what I did. So hopefully that's okay. I don't think we've ever discussed whether or not I could go full heresy on the podcast before. I know we said I could swear, but I don't know if I've ever talked about like full heresy before. Is heresy okay?
Listen, I support the heresy. I think Horus did the right thing when he struck down the Emperor of Mankind.
Oh my God!
Okay, and transitioned us into the
out of this.
Yeah. In case anyone missed that I'm a fucking nerd, you're welcome. Not that you had any choice about it, but yeah. But yes, I'm not Jesus. Don't hang me on the cross. It's going to kill me. He already has a monopoly on that, and that's not what I want to be remembered for.
Oh, sorry, popped in my head. Going on the scents and stuff, you said it kind of earlier, Mouse, how you don't want stuff too loud in case of emergencies, but sound would also be an important thing. If you have specific music you want playing, if you need like some type of white noise in the background, so it's just not silence.
Not me thinking white noise, like really bad white music. That's the first thing to come to my mind, and I'm just like, oh, what if I really don't want white sound?
You leave Taylor Swift out of this.
Oh fuck! See, that's the real ones you got to be scared of.
That's what I'm going to be cancelled over, talking about T-Swizz.
It could be. You never fucking know.
It's going to tie you down, make you listen to Blank Space on repeat for 4 hours.
No bad blood.
No bad blood. Oh my god. But yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people don't necessarily think about like the amount of care that you have to take in Kink before, during, and after. I mean, we talk about paying attention to your partner during, but like, you don't necessarily know what's going to happen, and you have to plan what you're going to do beforehand, but also know how to implement that during. And remember, you cannot ask for your partner's consent to do anything, your submissive partner's consent to do anything during a scene because there is an established power dynamic that's going to make it entirely unfair and non-consensual to even ask to change things during the scene. You've already established a power dynamic, which makes it inappropriate to try to ask them what they want during a scene.
What's okay to ask is, do you want to still do this of something that you already pre-talked about? That would be more of a check-in.
Even then, it would be kind of iffy because, like, would they feel like it was unfair for them to say no because they're already in a power dynamic difference where they don't feel safe to say no?
That's when they should safe word then.
Yes, I wholly agree. But like, you also have to be aware of that as a dominant, that they may not feel safe. So if there is hesitation, stop.
That's why enthusiastic consent is a big part of it.
Yeah, you have to be really, really careful with that kind of thing. There should not be any type of hesitation. If your submissive is acting like they're not sure that that's what they want or if that's what they're into at the time, don't do it.
Yep.
It's like we were saying earlier, like watching the body language and stuff, and then we discussed making sure that your environment is also like safe. I think vigilance across the board is. I mean, you don't want to be fully vigilant in that there's no enjoyment in it, but there's a degree, especially as like the dominant partner, that a degree of everything you knew, like you are processing, needs to have vigilance in it. Watching for things that are going wrong, could go wrong. I think reacting to things, like I feel like vigilance is the right word.
No, you got to be like Mad Eye Moody. You got to be like Mad Eye Moody in Harry Potter. Constant vigilance.
That's not a reference I thought I was going to hear today.
During my scene, please and thank you, that I can stay far away from it.
Yeah, that was not a reference I thought I was going to hear today.
You don't want me to have a crazy mechanical eye and then turn people into ferrets? Not okay with that?
No. Also, Harry Potter's a little bit of a turnoff at this stage of my life. A lot. Not really a big fan of TERFs personally. It's a big turnoff to me.
Yeah, I was like, I can forgive Warhammer 40K and I can forgive T-Swizz, but JKR.
Yeah, I feel like that'll make anyone drier than Sahara.
I was literally
Also,
about to
if
talk
you're-
about my stupidity, but I guess I'll leave that out of the conversation then.
I feel like if you're in a Harry Potter roleplay, like this is probably not something I want to hear about.
What, you don't read My Immortal on the reg? We
Look,
discussed that.
how many times are we going to bring up My Immortal on this podcast?
Listen, it's one of the best pieces of fiction ever written.
The fact that we have brought it up this many times impresses me, but also horrifies me.
No, there's mainly one that brings it up. Mainly one.
Yes.
Listen, just because I enjoy
listen.
the exploits of Ebony Darkness Dementia Raven Way, okay, doesn't mean you get to judge me.
I think it does, though, by definition.
It does not.
I disagree. What do you think, Prem?
I think Christ will judge you. The other Christ, not Mouse. The beady.
I'm not afraid of him.
Oh, it's okay. We'll get the holy fucks to stand up for you because I'm sure they've been sainted by the popes that actually, fucked them.
I'm not afraid of him. I think he'd want to date Malfoy too, Draco. Okay.
I mean,
what's the? I can never remember. What's the actor's name who played Draco Malfoy? I can't remember his name.
I don't know. I don't think I knew his name during the filming when I was like a kid. But I'm not saying Jesus is gay. I'm not saying Jesus is gay, but I am saying he got nailed by several men. So, I'm not saying he's not gay.
I mean, he also got his guts rearranged by a spear, but
Yeah, I don't know whether I wanted to bring that up, but I don't know what I was going to.
And they did call it the Spear of Destiny, which definitely strikes me as something a man would name his dick.
And there we go. Racing King 96 says they date Draco. And who wouldn't? Tom Felton. Bruh. And he's rich. He's rich.
Isn't he like a problematic piece of shit though?
Oh,
Look
10,000%.
at every single popular smut novel, though. Okay.
Yep. Kat read a whole series of books that was all twistings of like Disney stories. Where it was enemies to lovers with the heroine with the villains of the series. So like,
yeah, that sounds right.
Jasmine dating Jafar.
Yeah.
Look, a lot of people have that kink just because of the Disney movie. The Disney movie did it to themselves. Honestly, like, if Disney wasn't asking you to have like a problematic, like super problematic thing with Jasmine and Jafar, they shouldn't have made that movie the way that they did.
I don't disagree with you, actually.
The whole
like they really did it themselves. Yeah, like I feel like the sexual awakening of a lot of people was Jasmine in that red outfit with the handcuffs.
They had.
Yep.
And everyone automatically pictured the scene. You cannot tell me you didn't. I will call you a liar. But also, she's a minor, so don't be fucking weird.
One thing they didn't fuck with in the books, at least. It's modern, like, retellings of the same, like, themes of certain characters in the story, but not, like,
also, I should say,
word.
I just said something about Jasmine being the sexual awakening of a bunch of characters, and a guy was getting his car beside me, and we made dead eye contact, and I'm pretty sure he heard me.
He should have nodded.
He just looked at me, got in his car, and then continued to look at me as he drove away, and I'm like, yeah, that's fair.
Now he's just wondering about your Cave of Wonders.
Don't fucking say that. That's how you end up, like, I'm going to make the second tier of the Bish tank just to, like, make you extra grounded.
Do it.
By the way, there's in my server, we have something called the Bish tank, which you go into if you're grounded. It's not actually a punishment, but, like, I don't think Prim's ever left the Bish tank.
I have not.
I didn't think so.
I can show you the porn. I can read you Haunting Adelaide.
That's literally just his part of the server. We literally named the NSFW chat Prim's NSFW euphemisming. I think that's what it's called, isn't it?
I don't know. I just know it as Prim Chat.
You could rename it as Prim's Firehouse.
I mean, I could. It is NSFW Prim's euphemizing. We should probably actually get to like aftercare at some point in the next, 15 minutes for the podcast ends. I don't think we've actually discussed aftercare yet.
Not
We
yet.
got too busy talking about how much Will has a thing for Draco Malfoy.
Listen, if Tom Felton ever listens to this, and I don't know why he ever would, I love you, Tom Felton.
I mean, this is on brand, honestly. I don't know what I expected.
Oh my God. I have not told you guys this story yet. I think Kat was there for this, but I have a friend at Penzic who I've known for years, right? Great guy. One of my best friends there. And I introduce my girlfriend to him, and he spins and looks at me and goes, "I thought you were gay."
I mean, I'm not.
I mean, reasonably, they probably made a reasonable assessment based off of how he acts down there with a bunch of the friends he meets up with.
Hold on. Don't say how he acts down there and then just pause. That was not the place to pause. That was the worst possible place to pause, or the best if you were trying to be as suspicious as possible, which, is what I would aim for personally.
She meant down there as in his Spear of Destiny.
Yeah. Longinus' spear. Oh God, Longinus is. I'm just really
Oh,
unhappy with
gosh.
myself for that. I'm pretty sure we did have a joke about Longinus' spear around Christmas, didn't we?
Well, I mean, that's the best way to rearrange someone's guts.
I mean, probably physically and mentally and in spirit. Yes, I imagine that would be a pretty ample gut scrambler.
That was very, I don't know.
Talking
Vivid.
about gut scrambling, we should get on to aftercare.
Oh, I suppose
The
So after your
transitions
guts
get
have
to
been
get rougher and
scrambled,
we
rougher.
don't have to talk about having made out with a bunch of my guy friends down there. We can move on. So
look,
aftercare.
if your friends
Repeating
haven't
guilt.
suspected that you're gay, do you love your friends enough?
No, that's my point though. Just because I'm homosexual doesn't mean I'm homosexual, okay? Two very different things.
Not that there's
Homosexual,
anything wrong with either.
no, but homosexual is
Exactly.
specifically the domain of us demi folk who like to make out with our friends, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Which demi-folk do you mean?
Any demi folk?
I don't really make out with my friends.
If you're not homosexual, Mouse, I don't know what to tell you.
I mean,
It's just the mouse. They were checking under each other kilts and everything. It was a whole
yeah.
thing.
But my
Oh,
whole thing
listen.
is, if your friends haven't asked if you're gay because of how much you love on them, are you actually besties?
No, absolutely not. And just because
I'm
you make
saying.
out with them, whether it's for $20 or whether because it's just for fun, that doesn't mean
If
you're
there
gay.
isn't awkward sexual tension at some point because one of you is not sure if the other likes you that way, I don't think you're actually close enough as friends.
Correct.
Prim, how many experiences have you had like this? I feel like it's been a lot.
I just throw everything on the table. I'm just like, you want to make out cool, you want to fuck cool, you want to high five, just let me know. Just straight up. Then I learn their name sometimes, and then we're friends.
That sounds correct.
I have noticed the occurrences of these things happening goes up when I wear a kilt, though. That is true.
Oh yeah.
Honestly, all men in kilts, I feel like they are, if you're at a con wearing a kilt, I think you're
Were you just
questioning.
about to say they're asking for it, Mouse?
I think she
I
was.
feel
That's what it
Oh,
sounded like to
man.
me.
I certainly was, and I was thinking they're all questioning, but I feel like that's not all of Scotland. It might be most of Scotland, but it's not all of Scotland. But I feel like there's like some experimentation that they're open to at that point. If you're at a con in a kilt, you're open to experimentation.
Why? Why is that, Mouse? Why is that?
Have you met men in kilts?
I am a
I
man in a
asked you.
kilt, so yes.
I rest my case.
Oh my
Prim is
god.
owned a kilt. Prim is owned a kilt.
Prim does own a kilt. It's true.
Wow. Wow.
He also
too
has a
fat for it
whole
anymore, but
collection of
different.
spears and
Wow.
swords.
I think this is some
Yeah, he does,
unconscious kilt bias, is what this is.
Mhm.
I've also read the
Really
entire Outlander
interesting
series.
conversation.
I am convinced that every man in a kilt is open to experimentation. Kat, have you read the Outlander series? Because I feel like you'll agree with me on this one.
I have not. But
Yeah,
this whole conversation makes me think about my old stage crew teacher because he wore kilts to school, and I don't want to think about that. I have too much Irish on my side of the family, and I don't want to think about all of that.
I was gonna say like all of Scotland was open to experimentation, but a solid most.
It's
All
the
right.
utility kilt.
Utility.
They just cost so much money. Yeah, no. They make utility kilts, and they're like really cool looking, and they're like think like goth emo, but like as a kilt, and then with like pockets,
Mhm.
a million pockets, all the pockets, as many pockets as you can imagine.
A trip kilt.
Oh, 10.
That's what
That's
it is?
exactly what it is, with
Trip.
chains and all.
I
But they
feel like
cost so
that's
much.
a thing. I feel like that's a thing.
It is. No, it is a
That's
thing.
definitely
No,
a thing,
literally.
yeah.
That is what it is.
Yep.
It's just it's like $250+ for a nice utility. Like they're a lot of money.
Yeah, they're as much
I'm
as strip
looking at-
pants.
I found one for $87 on Vampire Freaks.
I don't know that I trust that. Good kilts are a lot of money just generally. Never mind the utility kilts.
Look, it's from the Trip brand. I mean, consider quality. I don't know. Like you probably shouldn't be buying from Trip. They're made to rip.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. When I got the kilts that the kilt that I own now is from a specific small brand. You're not going to see them on Google probably.
Oh, it's a
Yep.
hipster kilt. I get it.
Yeah, that's when I Google utility kilts.
You were
That's
into
what I'm
kilts
seeing.
before they were popular.
We just
That's when they called them
redirected
skirts?
ourselves so hard onto the kilt conversation. We completely forgot aftercare again, guys. We're doing great.
I've
So,
tried to bring it back
aftercare.
twice.
I've tried in the other subjects.
Then you wanted to make sweeping statements about Scotland,
Yeah,
which I do
yeah,
not endorse.
mouse.
And this is how I get banned from Scotland. That's fine. Basically, Scotland is like the West Virginia of the U.S. It's fine. But just,
Trying
you
to say
know,
now. What does that mean?
it's basically the same mountain ranges. I mean, mist,
Did you hear that? If you're in West Virginia,
awkward sexual relationships between people who live in mountains.
you hear that if you live
You
in
are
West Virginia,
intent on
Mouse
getting
has some,
cancelled today.
yeah, she is. Mouse has some opinions on you if you live in West Virginia.
Look. I already talked about Jesus being gay. I feel like this is the lesser of the two things that I've done.
I don't know. I thought
don't know.
when you said, "Look at the way you're dressed, Will," you were asking for it. I was a bit,
Because Jesus is dead. People in Scotland and people in West Virginia are very much still alive right now.
And so is Will.
Well, I mean, you're going to offend
Indeed.
Christians who you say Jesus is dead because I think they disagree with you.
No, I'm pretty sure he's up in heaven right now. If you believe in that to begin with, that he's dead. He died.
Yeah,
What do
but like,
do you think he's
allegedly-
hiding in a cave in the Middle East until Revelations comes up? He's still alive on the planet.
Allegedly, he rose again and then rose all the way up into heaven because that's something that is totally reliable
That's
witness
what
source
happens
from
when you
people
die.
2,000 years ago.
That's what happens when you die. He's
Look,
dead.
we're leaning
You had a bunch
heavily
of
on
sneaky
the
firemen making a really big
2,000-year-old
ladder.
eyewitness accounts of some people who were probably maybe like a little high.
So good
But, like, you
aftercare is when you provide care to your partner when they're crazy and think things about people from Scotland, West Virginia, me, or think Jesus isn't dead. You have to say, yes, dear, or something like that, and you just have to, give them a pat on the head.
A lot of sweeping statements today. Oh my.
Yeah, mouse.
Like, this isn't the average conversation. Let's be real. Well, you've been in my server long enough to this is barely getting started on the average conversation with me.
You're not entirely wrong.
It's true. It's true. This is actually pretty tame. But as far as aftercare goes, we've talked about aftercare so much that I really don't think it bears a whole lot of repeating. But aftercare cannot be skipped. Maybe some people just need a little pat on the ass and like a good job, well done. Here's a bottle of water. See you next month. Or maybe they're going to need like a full day of snuggles and sitting on the couch and being reminded of how valuable they are and how much you love and care for them. Really depends on the person, but this has to be communicated and it's not going to be the same every single time. You have to know what your partner wants.
It can look completely different from person to person.
And to scene to scene.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Aftercare includes caring for all the injuries that you've inflicted, mental and physical. If you did a lot of degradation during the scene, your partner may need a lot of building up after. If you've engaged in knife play, it may include, a lot of bandaging. With impact, it may include a lot of salves, ice packs, heat packs, whatever is needed. But it also includes taking care of them spiritually, mentally, making sure that all of their needs for their well-being post-scene are taken care of. And that may be in person, it may be with text. It really depends on the individual and what's going on.
It's also, once again, not just for subs. Like,
Exactly.
so Doms might feel bad for having said horrible things in degradation. They need to be reminded that, you know, they didn't mean those things. They're not a bad
Yeah,
person for saying those things. You know,
exactly.
it's
Dom
just a
drop
play.
is very real. We talk about or sub drop, but also Dom drop. There is something that can happen during a scene or after a scene where that person feels really fucking low because of what went on. Everyone needs
Well,
care post scene.
a lot of things that, I mean, in the same way that a lot of the things that make kink are things that are taboo, and, you know, for a sub, but also for a dominant who is doing those things, there's a lot of inherent, I don't know,
Mental strain.
societal
Demonization.
demonization. There we go. I
Yeah.
fucking lost the word entirely, but that's what I meant.
Yeah, there's a lot of
But yeah,
inherent
sorry.
demonization that comes with doing the things that we do in a scene consensually, but also you may feel bad about doing it after or for having it done to you, especially if you're somebody who feels really bad about, you know, maybe your parents had a bad dynamic and you saw your parents beating on each other a lot. That may hit you when you're least expecting it post scene. Flashbacks like that, if you have trauma, if you are a victim of DV or SA, post scene, you may have a lot of issues with what happened in the scene, even though you enjoyed it thoroughly during the scene. So you do have to make sure that you are communicating what your needs are. Even if they change 2 days after the scene, you're still not good or something happens, that is still ample time for aftercare to occur. It does not matter.
Have sub drop a few days later. Instead, they'll be just fine right after a scene, and then they'll experience sub drop or dom drop days later.
Yes, and that is something that you have a responsibility to communicate, but on the other side, that other person has an obligation to care for. The scene isn't over just because you're no longer actively engaging in it. You still have to take care of each other before and after. Some people may not need a whole lot more than a butt pat and bottle of water, but you still have to actually do that due diligence. You'll need to text them, have a conversation like, "Are you okay?" And if they reach out to you 3 days later in hysterics because they need you, you do still have to get involved. Like,
Yeah.
you are still the reason for that, so you need to be the dominant person who is willing to take care of them. If that dom that you thought you were just having a one-time interaction with really needs support, you do still have to provide that. That is part of the scene.
Yes, indeed.
If you don't want to engage in that care, don't do a scene with that person. Point blank.
Yeah, it needs some sort of debrief, even if the debrief is, no, I'm actually pretty good. Like, you know, I don't really need anything for now, but you need to check.
Yeah. And if
Like, you
3
need
days
to make
later
sure
they
you ask
reach out
them.
to you that they no longer don't need anything, it's not just over because they already told you no the first time. That door has to remain open. It's not closed just because they, left in an Uber.
Yep.
I feel like a lot of people don't appreciate this. I've had a lot of people, particularly on my page, try to say, well, I don't need aftercare. Or, I don't need aftercare on my scenes. Well, my dom, when we have a scene, I don't need aftercare. I need to be left alone for a few days. But all he does is say, "Are you okay? I'm here if you need me." And I'm like, "Bitch, that is aftercare.
Yep.
That is
Yeah,
aftercare."
leaving someone alone for a couple of days is aftercare. Like, it's part
Yeah.
of what you need to feel cared for. Like,
Yeah,
afterward, it's right there in the fucking word.
Yeah, like, "Oh, I'm here if you need me." That is aftercare. And she's like, "Well, I don't consider it aftercare." I'm like, "But it is aftercare." Like, there's so many people who think that they're like better than other subs or something because they don't feel like they need aftercare, or they're quirky and different because they need to be left alone. A lot of people need to be left alone for a while after a scene. That's how some people process it. And how you handle that and giving them space but still being there if you need them is part of aftercare.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be different for everyone, but aftercare is fucking essential no matter who you are. I don't think we talk about that enough.
Yeah, there's also like a fucking, like a dick swinging attitude in DOMs where, like, oh, I don't experience DOM drop. I don't need aftercare. And it's just like, well, like, if you think about it, you probably do, though.
Yeah, like, if you
you're a hardcore, like, fucking dude, and you're so tough, and but also like let go of it and
Just
explore
because
what
you
you need as well.
internalize it, yeah, just because you internalize it and like don't say anything about it doesn't mean you don't need it.
Mm.
That's actually just super unhealthy and creates a lot of problems for you and all of your potential partners. Don't
Yeah,
do
well,
that.
if you're not willing to explore it, that's like you're becoming dangerous.
Yes, exactly. Like we have to be honest with our feelings. And if you're feeling like you're not okay after a scene, it doesn't matter who you are, communicate that. It's important to be honest about how you're feeling after a scene. If you as a sub think that you are causing an issue by saying that you're not okay following a scene, you're not, but you might be with the wrong Dom if they're making you feel like you're causing an issue by telling them you're not okay.
Yeah, no one should
You
be
should never
ever
feel like
telling
it's not
someone
okay.
else that. Yeah, that's ridiculous.
So if you are seeking aftercare and it's not being provided, you probably need a new partner.
Mm.
Or
It
if you're
sucks,
still in the
but not
discussion phase and planning for aftercare, maybe don't do a scene with that partner too.
yeah.
If they're telling you all these things that
Yeah, if
don't
they're
mesh
saying,
with your plan.
yeah, if they say I don't believe in aftercare and I don't want you to provide it, they're probably not somebody that's safe to have a scene with.
Mm.
Or
They
if
either
for,
don't know enough about aftercare or that they're toxic.
Which is
Yeah.
much of a muchness.
for whatever reason you can't provide that person with the aftercare that they need, don't do that scene with them still, because you
Mhm.
are not meeting their needs.
Yeah, if your idea of aftercare is, butt pats and giving them money for a ride home and not spending the day cuddling them, and that is their idea of it, don't do the scene and then be super weird about providing what they need. If you don't want to do it, then just don't fucking do it. Don't do the scene. Don't be that person. If you are a sub who isn't comfortable with a dom who needs considerable aftercare after a scene, then why are you in the scene to begin with? And don't do a scene with that person. Like, if you are a sub who doesn't want to have to give aftercare to a dom, you're not a sub, you're a bitch. I said it. Like, if you are with
You are
somebody you don't
correct.
want to provide aftercare with them, don't be in the scene. We don't want you here. Nobody wants that person who is too selfish to want to provide care. Doms deserve care too. And if you are a sub who doesn't want to provide that care, you just don't belong in the scene. It's just selfishness.
Especially if they're from West Virginia or Scotland wearing a kilt or any combination of those. So
I
that being said,
still say Scotland is the West Virginia of the U.S.
and I still want you to explain that fully, but that being said, that is the time for today's episode. What are we talking about in 2 weeks? What's our next episode? What are we discussing?
Do we want to talk about the ethics one that I brought up earlier, where we're talking about like getting into the in-depth discussion of kink and like how it can get complicated? We
Yeah,
were
we can talk
discussing
about the ethics of
specifically
it.
like we were talking about things like hentai specifically and like where it can get really cloudy and foggy.
We can discuss the ethics of it. Yeah, I don't have a problem with that.
There's no way we're all going to get cancelled for that.
Oh, look, we are. It is a sticky subject. It's something that's come up this week quite a bit, and I've had to think way too long about the ethical nature of bestiality versus monster fucking on my own time, and my brain is just like, why is this something that I'm having to think about?
Well, think about how you want to talk about it, Russ, and you can lead that episode.
As if that would stop me. I'll talk about
No,
suspicious stuff all day. Let's fucking go.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It'll be a good episode. Let's do it. That's fine with me.
Yeah, and it'll be
All
fun.
right.
Maybe not fun, but traumatizing for everyone involved.
Nothing wrong with that. So we'll count on that in 2 weeks. And I hope you all enjoyed this episode. Again, give us a like, subscribe, follow wherever the hell you happen to be. Check out any socials we have linked in descriptions below if you're looking on YouTube. And I think I have URLs on other sites too. But check those out if you get a chance. And thanks for listening. And we'll see you guys in 2 weeks.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
guys.
Bye.